BlackRock, DTCC, Fidelity. The entire thing was just institutions. It's next level. This industry is going to the next level. And guys, I don't know what else to say. I'm bullish.
You said it. You finally said it.
I'm so bullish.
Andy's bullish. I'm bullish. We're bullish. We're on 4th floor today. We're going to be on floor 1, and then we're headed straight to the moon, boys.
Yes, sir. Welcome back. Happy Monday, December 15th. I'm here solo dolo. Rob's in New York City with his girl, taking a couple days to enjoy the sights. I'm here watching the 1-minute chart on TradingView, wondering where it all went wrong, guys. I'm just kidding. I had a great weekend. Hope you guys did as well. I have not really been paying attention too much to the charts. It's just I was the bearish one with Vance and Mike last week. I got thrown under the bus. I'm looking at the markets now. It really doesn't look great. Guys, I don't know. I really don't know. But what I do know is just as long as you're sticking with the program, the institutions don't care. Tom Lee bought another, I don't know, $400 million of ETH. Michael Saylor bought another $1 billion at 92,000 per Bitcoin. I don't think they care. I don't think you should care. But what is happening is the institutions are buying, retail's selling. I know you don't want to be on the wrong side of that trade, but guys, I don't blame you. It's looking interesting out there. I think there's a lot of tax loss harvesting happening, amongst other things. So we'll kind of see. We have a pretty good week. We have an awesome guest, Lark Davis, coming on tomorrow. We've got some sick other kind of like AI tokenization stablecoin guests coming on as well. So should be good. Today's going to be back to the roots. So if you guys weren't with the Rollup before we kind of started this whole streaming thing about 9 months ago, we kind of got our bread and butter by doing a lot of technical conversations with builders, I would say. We were in the weeds always, 2023, 2024, talking about the newest developments in the modular blockchain space, in the different types of interoperability, different types of UX improvements and protocols. And so in light of that, the bull market came. Obviously, some would argue it came and went already that fast. And we've kind of gotten too much more into the news and into the finance and into the institutional crowd. And we have some amazing news for you guys for next year for the fans of the show. Stay tuned for that. That is being sorted out as we speak. But today's conversation is going to be more around the tech, more around kind of the cryptographic primitives that are underpinning a lot of what we're doing. And I anticipate if we do get into a longer, slower bear period for Q1 of 26, we'll probably spend more time talking about the tech. So that's kind of where my head's at, guys. I'm feeling good. It's Monday. It's really like the last full sprint week until the end of the year. I think a lot of teams are trying to capitalize on what's happening. Something to bring up for you guys, though, so we have a lot of Telegram chats in the back of the, back of house with different teams. Probably have, well over 1,000 Telegram chats with different teams from the last 6 years. And I must say, guys, it is that time of the cycle of the market where we have seen multiple, probably a hand or two hands full of teams where their marketing department is getting restructured and they're having these organizational restructurings and they're kind of changing the dynamic of their teams and thinning out and leaning out. And guys, usually that is a leading indicator of where people think the market's going to go, or it can be also a lagging indicator for where the market's been. So that happened the last couple of weeks. And so I was just, I pay attention to these things as running some, as being, deeply involved in the space. You kind of have a nice opportunity to really see what's happening in the internal level, not just like with the price, but all the other factors that make up the market. Excuse me. And I think, it's pretty clear that there's restructuring. Let's call it that. So just want to put that in front of you guys. Guys, we got a bunch of stuff to cover. Let's go ahead and get into it before we get Jens and John up today, our cryptography guests. We're going to work through a couple of different things. So why don't we flip over to our boy N3on, who has launched a meme coin and is mentally struggling. What a shocker. What a shocker. So N3on's taking a mental health break phase of his scam, according to Beanie. And this is after explicitly promising parabolic returns to the buyer of his coin. You don't hate these people enough. And for sure, don't hate the mega influencers that promoted this and are now radio silent enough. N3on tweets, I love you guys so much. I'm laying down in bed thinking, why did this happen to me? I would do anything to be able to get up and stream right now. I'm going to sleep for 24 hours straight and hope I wake up a new man. I'll see you guys soon. Don't forget about me, please. We have too much shit coming up this month for this to be happening. And as you can see, I mean, the price is only down like 10% in the chart. But yeah, man, I mean, look, we were going to try to have N3on on the show. We knew that it was going to be about this coin because we were going to angle it kind of against this because we figured this was going to happen. But I think we can firmly say the celebrity streamer coin meta is a terrible failed experiment. We can say that Trump and Melania literally exterminated the trenches, exterminated them, completely killed them. We can say that every celebrity coin pretty much up to this point has been an absolute money grab scam. Even Iggy Azalea's coin that was like, she was at least part of the culture and of the vibe on crypto Twitter. Yeah, still pretty much a scam. So every single celebrity coin every single celebrity or streamer that has came into this industry has simply came in, tried to extract value from meme coin participants, and then their charts all look the same, and then they've left. They've literally ran the same playbook. They snipe the launch, they pre-sale their friends, they all pump it up one time, they get exchange listings, then they pursue to just dump it on everybody. Trump started it with the most giga exit scam, launching it over to $80 billion, the short vesting. The rest of these guys didn't even include vesting. They just kept whatever tokens that they had and dumped it on everyone's head. Guys, I would never touch a celebrity coin like this again. A streamer coin, a celebrity coin. Look, my call to action, if you're someone who is famous, you want to get into this space, you got to talk to guys like Koopa Troopa. You got to talk to guys who are actually going to show you how to build a brand in this industry without just launching a coin and exit scamming. Guys, I know it's really enticing to just launch exit scam coins, but I'm telling you right now, if you're watching this and you're thinking about getting into crypto, do not do this playbook. It is not going to work anymore. So sorry, N3on, man, you're the scapegoat here, but it had to be said. Hopefully you can figure it out, but I don't know. I don't know who's the marginal buyer for this token. I really don't. All right, guys, let's move on to some more positive kind of like this. So this is the barbell here, right? So this is what's happening in the trenches and on chain. N3on mental health exit. Now let's flip over to what's happening in the institutional world, and you'll see it's a completely different world. So JPMorgan launches a tokenized money market fund. They're going to bring and they're going to do it on Ethereum. And effectively what they're going to do is they're going to bring their $4 trillion of asset management onto Ethereum blockchain. They're going to seed it with $100 million of their own capital, and then they'll open it to outside investors tomorrow. So this is literally the biggest cognitive dissonance that is happening in this space right now, guys. And it's these two tweets are the perfect example of what's going on. So on one hand, you've got celebrity streamer exit scamming people. And on the other hand, you have JPMorgan institutions saying, hey guys, by the way, we're launching our tokenized money market fund on Ethereum, and we're going to do it. We're going to bring 100 mil of our own money on chain, and we're going to open it up to our clients as of Tuesday. Oh, wow. Okay. So like there's these forces are coming at each other in like a different way. And so the way that I would like explain this basically is there is a contractionary force occurring in the crypto native project participant speculator on-chain protocol landscape where there is a trimming of the fat happening that is going to cause a couple handfuls of winners to really rise to the top and a lot of losers. So that's kind of like the contractionary maturation phase that is happening on the crypto native side of things. Then on the institutional side of things, there's this massive expansionary regime happening where there are people, they are JPMorgan coming into this space. There is large institutions like Saylor and Lee buying tons of Bitcoin and ETH. There are large fintech companies, Stripe, Klarna, chains, stablecoins, etc. Tokenization. Larry Fink wants to tokenize everything. This is the cause of the cognitive dissonance on CT right now. And I'm telling you guys, it is easier to be on the side of, oh, we're getting mass adoption right now. Yes, I need to be a bit more selective with my picks in the market, and I need to be managing my risk. But my goodness, guys, we're at the beginning of a multi-decade bull run. Don't fuck this up. Versus it's all over. My altcoin is cooked. There's never going to be another opportunity. I think that's just not how you can look at it, guys. So that is awesome. Shout out to JPMorgan. Let's keep it rolling. There's more institutional news. There's even more of it. Let's talk Hyperliquid here now. So Bitwise just filed its amendment for the Hyperliquid ETF, which added the 8A thing, the fee, and the ticker BHYP. Usually that means launch is imminent. Stay tuned. Hyperliquid ETF would be absolutely electric. This means that we are literally going to see the rise of boomers buying our bags way higher than what we bought them at on public exchanges. And it's freaking amazing. Face orange. We got a little chat guy going on. So look, I'm stoked on this. I hope it goes through. I've been quite critical of Hyperliquid as of late, and I think they deserve it. I think that there's competition coming. I think that people are not expecting anything to take Hyperliquid's spot. Lighter is coming, and there are other platforms coming that are going to take some attention mind share off Hyperliquid. I remain bullish, but the thesis has definitely changed, and as an investor, you need to be able to adapt to the changing of the thesis. All right, let's move on to Visa. I think this is probably the biggest news of the day to cover. And it is, again, part of this barbell where Visa expanding its stablecoin strategy. So Visa is expanding its stablecoin strategy here. It's absolutely fantastic to see. Rialo, what's up, man? Visa launched a stablecoin advisory practice to help institutions build stablecoin strategies. Pretty cool. I mean, this just basically means that Visa realizes that they need to accommodate stablecoins, and that they're going to bring them into their everyday world. So I'm pretty bullish on this. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Visa kind of. I mean, basically, what I think this means for Visa is, hey guys, like, there's a lot of demand from our client side to take payments in stablecoins, and we need to figure it out. Like, I think basically a lot of these institutions are in that, oh, damn, we need to figure this out phase, not like the, oh, let's just kind of dilly-dally and figure it out as we go. I think they feel the pressure. Like, think about it, right? If you're a payments processor And you're sitting around and you're trying to figure out what's going on with your stablecoins, with your stablecoin strategy. You're getting pitched by these different, crypto native firms, these payment chains like Polygon, who's a partner of ours, or Frax, or Tempo, or Plasma. And you're looking around and you're like, these guys are promising instant settlement, no fees, or very, very little fees, 24/7 access, and they want to expand the US dollar dominance, which means that they're going to get government backing. So if you're Visa, you're thinking to yourself kind of like, what the hell is going on here? We better have a stablecoin strategy or we're going to be in trouble. And so I think it's more of a reactionary kind of phase, like a reactionary kind of action, rather than it is more like a proactive action. I could be wrong, but I think they feel the pressure, which I think is bullish. Again, guys, the barbell continues to get further and further apart. The crypto native ETH, the crypto native contraction of the space is just so much different than the institutional expansion. And again, guys, I just want you guys to be on the side of institutional expansion. Just think on the side of institutional expansion. All right, guys, last one here. This is more about kind of like the state of the sentiment in the market, which I think was an important tweet to cover. Let's pull this up here. And I think we have our guests ready to go. So this one is, for most crypto founders, the peak is pre-TGE. First of all, totally agree with that line. They feel like little snowflakes. They've raised a ton of money. CT glazing them 24/7, convinced they're geniuses. Why is that? One, because you get Kaido points, you get wall chain quacks, you get all this stuff pre-TGE. Plus, it is easier to be bullish on a project when they have not launched their token. The engagement on my pre-TGE lists continue to be spectacular. It is a never-ending engagement farm to be bullish on pre-TGE projects because you get the most amount of hype. I agree. The downfall starts on day one of TGE, when everyone dumps the token and engagement goes down. Slowly, they realize no one gives a fuck about what they have to say. 225 views, 225,000 views. First of all, this guy CBB is like king farm and dump. He's going to be a participant for the Arthur Hayes Award. That's for sure. The Arthur Hayes Pinocchio Award coming soon on Rollup TV. Second, he's right. The sad thing is that nobody gives a shit about these tokens after the founder launch. I'm thinking about some of these angel investments that we've done. All of the hype that these teams had before they launched their token was so incredibly high. And like, it's honestly just kind of depressing how the hype fades. Your token chart looks sad. And then you have to deal with that reality at the same time. So yeah, man, I mean, I just wanted to put this out there because I feel like the Mega ETH is a big launch coming up. Monad was huge. It feels like nobody wants Monad to win. It feels like nobody expects them to win. It feels like, I don't know, man. It feels like people want this industry to not win anymore. It's honestly sad. Like, sentiment has got so bad on Twitter, so bad. It's just like, guys, it's the holidays, man. We're about a week away from freaking Christmas. Get cozy, and get your head right, guys. So we'll take a quick break, guys, and we'll get our first guest up here. Stoked to get into the weeds, talk tech. Quick standby.
Yeet is built for big moments. The most fun you'll ever have with your crypto. Go to yeet.com to yeet into your next game.
Not your keys, not your coins. From the team that pioneered cold storage, Trezor has just released its new wallet. Guys, if you are still using hot wallets in 2025, 2026, you are missing the entire point. Secure your coins. Get a Trezor at trezor.io.
Go anywhere on-chain instantly with Relay.link. Relay is closing in on $10 billion transferred. Go to Relay.link to bridge your assets now.
money shouldn't wait for Mondays. Following its real upgrade, Polygon is now one of the fastest chains for stablecoin transfers and payments. Visit Polygon Technology to learn more.
Kalshi is the world's largest prediction market. You can trade on anything in all 50 states. Go to kalshi.com to trade today.
Talk to AI like your lawyer or your doctor or your therapist. Yours, private, and here today. Visit N3on to have a fully private chat experience.
Havachi is fast and private perps trading secure.
Alrighty, lads. Jens and Jen, welcome to Rollup TV, guys. Glad to have you on. Jen's Groth from Nexus, and Jen, a new hire and new team member of Rialo. Guys, happy Monday. It's good to hear from you.
Happy Monday.
Indeed, happy Monday.
Jen, amazing name combination we've got going on here today. I'm a bit bummed that I can't add to it. We've got some friends in the chat excited for this conversation. So this one's going to take us back into the weeds, into some of the cryptographic conversation, into the tech. Excited about that. Before we do, just quick intro, guys. It's your first time on the show. Both of you have quite the heralded past filled with different technology accolades as well as achievements. I would love just a brief TLDR so our audience has a bit of an understanding as to who they're hearing from today. So, Jen, why don't you start off?
Sure. Jan Kavenish, like a cryptographer, distributed system, privacy researcher. I also did a lot of actual practical building of system and really care about privacy. And I guess Jens and I also met when we wrote our paper together about privacy technology group signatures. And here we are again, something like, I forget, 25 years later since that paper, and still working on privacy and making sure it happens.
Yeah, that's very true. That was so like in the early days while I was doing my PhD, and I've stuck with zero knowledge proofs afterwards. So yeah, so in my intro, I'm Jens Groth. I'm the chief scientist at Nexus, and Nexus is building verifiable computation, particularly very interested in verifiable finance, and building tools for that right now. And I've been interested in verifiability for all of my academic and industry career. Developed a lot of fundamental technologies in zero knowledge proofs, invented pairing-based snarks in 2010, and the most used scheme in 2016. So that's my background.
Yeah, man. I realized this morning that I was going to be speaking to the creator of Groth 16. That was quite the achievement here. So stoked to dive into that. Jan, man, so let's kick off with the recent news, and then we'll get into some of the technology. You just recently joined a company called Rialo. They're building with a very unique perspective on blockchain design, really kind of centered around breaking this API problem down and really being able to integrate a lot of the current tech that exists on chain into, let's just say, the real world. Why did you make this move? Why was Rialo compelling? Let's get the news out of the way, and then let's dive into the tech.
Yeah, so a lot of things. Well, I guess first of all, the company is called Sub-Zero, and Rialo is really the product. And before Rialo, I was at the Video Foundation building the Internet computer. And after 7 years of my job was done, and I was ready for new adventures. And Sub-Zero, in particular Rialo, really targets to bring privacy to Web3, also to bridge the gap between like Web3 and Web2. And you can't really do that without privacy. So having privacy, like on-chain privacy, is really like an essential component. Since, as you said, I guess this first started, I actually went into cryptography because of privacy, because on one hand it fascinated me, and because same for you, Jens, probably the zero knowledge proofs, like doing something without really proving or like revealing what you do, like proving you're over 18 without revealing your birth date. And like my PhD was about eCash, same thing. And I think it's still not there in the world. And the Rialo, we really want to, or at Sub-Zero, want to build Rialo that bridges this gap, so we can have real world application again, which doesn't work without privacy.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And privacy has very much made its way back into the crypto discourse as of late. It's quite funny how some of these things that we talked about in 2016, 2017 era, that was when I first entered the space. We got into the space reading books about, like the Bitcoin Standard and the Truth Machine and these types. Kids nowadays, they get into the space from meme coins. So we're not going to get into that, but let's just say we have a saying on the Rollup called "Return to Fundamentals," and I think privacy is a big part of that. So let's start there with this kind of evolution of ZK. Jens, from your perspective, you've been working on some of these technologies for a bit. As it relates to privacy, I'm curious about some of the latest works that you've been doing with regards to proving bottlenecks. We've had a lot of the popular ZK VMs on our show. What are some of the core proving bottlenecks that you're recently been working to solve, and just kind of generally, how has that process been as of late?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I mean, look, I also got into this world because I was interested in privacy, right? But I think there's sort of like two aspects to it, right? There's a verifiability dimension, there's privacy dimension, and I personally actually think I'm more excited about the verifiability dimension, right? Of course, the cool thing about zero knowledge proofs is that you get both of them, right? But if I had to sort of like choose one or the other, I would probably go with the verifiability aspect. I don't know if you disagree with that, Jan, or agree with that, but I think that would be maybe an interesting thing for us to talk about. Anyway, yeah. So verifiability is sort of like very much what we do at Nexus, right? And our goal is to really do verifiability at scale, right? So we want to do verifiability internet scale. And we're sort of like tackling first the financial sector, right? But the hope is also to go beyond that and really have everything that is digital also be verifiable. And that means that everything should come with proofs. Right now, there's sort of like, very huge computational overheads, right? So if you take the best ZK VMs right now and you compare, you say like, let's do a computation, just for like native computation, RISC-V computation or something like that, right? And let's prove that, right? The cost of the proof is like 10,000x or 100,000x the cost of just a native computation, right? So it's really expensive, right? And the question then becomes, which kind of things can you verify? Well, either they're so small so you don't care about that overhead, right? Or things where you really want to, the privacy, so you're willing to pay that cost, right? And basically, the more we can squeeze down that cost of proving, right, the more things can we unlock that we can do verifiable computation over. So there are various bottlenecks. I think if we look at sort of like a modern ZKVM, like the one we have at Nexus, right, I think about half the cost is actually in something like permutation arguments, lookup arguments. So sort of like inside this machine, you have to prove that, something that happened at one point in time is consistent with something that happens at a later point in time in the computation, right? If I write something to a particular address, I should be reading the same value later on the next time I access that address. And this can happen everywhere in the computation trace, right? So these kind of proofs have to sort of like be sort of like global in some sense, have some sort of like global invariant that they satisfy. And those are expensive proofs to compute. There are recent works that sort of like try to improve them and actually seem to get some performance benefits, right? So as long as we sort of like keep improving on that one, right, then we will be able to have more efficient proofs. Another cost for us is the cost of committing to value. So there's some sort of like, typically the way it works is that you sort of like do the computation, you get sort of data from every cycle the CPU has computed, right? And you have to commit to this so you can prove things about it later on. And those commitments come with a cost. So again, people looking at how can we create the most efficient commitment schemes and bring that cost down.
Yeah, and Jan, I'm curious if you have anything to add there, as well as just like generally how you think about measuring ZK performance in a similar train of thought with regards to the different types of this or different parts of the stack that kind of make up the full life cycle of a proof.
Yeah, I guess maybe let's go a bit back where Jens sort of opened versus like what privacy versus verifiability, right? And maybe we should, like privacy means a lot, right? Or like can mean many things. Let's say that because it means a lot to both of us. That can mean many things. So like some people mean anonymity, really, where there's like everything is hidden. You don't really see what's going on, right? And if you see things like Monero, like it's completely anonymous. Then you have things like Zcash, where actually can have a choice how much like anonymity you want to have. You can say some transactions are private, sometimes some are not. And Zcash does then use zero knowledge proof to actually prove that everything is verifiable, right? But that's very specific. In general, a general application, I mean, you need to have this balance between like what data you can reveal and what data you cannot reveal, right? I mean, and so this is balance between privacy, where like you have full transparency or like full anonymity, and depending on the application, you want to be somewhere in between, right? Like if you, especially like financial, if you want to go more to TradFi or other applications, so it's all the same, right? You want to sort of be able to build your application in a way that it both protects the price on the one hand and enables the verifiability on the other hand, right? And because it's, like let's say, like all the performance things aside, right? I mean, I guess if you have a full-blown application, want to do all in zero knowledge, maybe that's not quite possible today. But then there's of course other privacy technologies, right? Like full homomorphic encryption, multi-party computation, or even like people use TEs to do some stuff in there. So there's a whole toolbox to use. But because my point is really like, and that's what we're trying to build at Sub-Zero and in Rialo, that you're able to have this full spectrum, right? Like the network provides you the primitives, and then when you're an application developer, then you can develop your application on top of that, and then just pick the tools and also really achieve all the verifiability that's needed, also for compliance and so on and so forth. On the one hand, and then also have the verifiability, because today if you use TradFi, right, I'm like, it's essentially fully trust to like a central party, and the beauty and power of Bitcoin or blockchain or like distributed networks is really that you have this verifiability, which instills more trust, but also more security. And so now, in order to bring this like higher security, higher level of trust to digital applications, we need to have these both things, right? So we need to have this privacy for certain things. And there might be things that are completely hidden, but maybe you just know what functionality it does. So let's say, for instance, there's like a blockchain network right now. It wants to bridge over to some traditional system. Obviously, there is some authentication involved in there. So it just, like an API key or so, it's like the traditional mechanism that is used. And there's of course many better ways to do that, but just the fact is, like today in the like Web 2 world, API keys are used to access these things. And now if you want to do like a blockchain network that uses an API key to access the traditional service, you can't do that without price or that whole computation being hidden, right? So and then you need to have have the API key in some encrypted form and then feed it to like an on-chain program. And then the question is, of course, now how can you do this access to the traditional service? And you could do it with fully homomorphic encryption, doesn't quite work. So I guess here, like things like TE is actually come in handy, because now you can do this computation, this connection with traditional web on inside a TE, for instance, right? Because like fully homomorphic encryption, you would have to do this whole TLS. It can be done, right? But it doesn't really make sense. So I think at the end of the day, what we need is like this kind of toolbox. And this is always hard, right? If you provide a toolbox to developers, you need to make sure that it's generic enough, but also specific enough so it's usable, right? And that's sort of the challenge we are up for when building Rialo, that actually we can provide this kind of services or this kind of tools to developers, then they can build this real-world application integrating with TradFi, such that we really get this verifiability that blockchain can offer to this space.
Yeah, Jens, anything to add there with regards to how Jan here is thinking about integrating privacy and verifiability into what they're building with Sub-Zero and Rialo?
I mean, everything Jan says makes, of course, perfect sense, right? And I wholeheartedly agree. And that is so like the beauty of zero knowledge proofs, that you can fine tune the balance, what you want to, what kind of information is it okay to leak, and also what properties of that information instead of raw information can you actually reveal, right? That you should have access to this particular system, right? Or that you have a particular age or something else, right? And I think it's very exciting, right? Times that we're in now, because people are like going out and really looking at real world, where can they find that kind of data they can prove things about, right? So an example would be that you take passport data, right, which has a digital signature from the state that that this is your name and this is your birth date and so forth, right? And then people use that to prove that, hey, I have a signature from the state that says I should be allowed to do this, or I come from this country and so forth, right? So they can disclose very specific information. They don't have to show their passport anywhere, right? They can just disclose specific information, right? And I think this is something we are trying to scale up. I think both in Rialo and at Nexus, right? That we want to make things as trustworthy as possible, right? So we want to use zero knowledge proofs and the verifiability that they give, right? And then you also have the privacy feature, right? That you can also hide things that are not relevant or not needed in this particular use case, right? To disclose. So I think we're very much in agreement here.
Yeah, guys. I mean, gonna throw something else your way, because Jan, you mentioned Zcash and some of the primitives there, and kind of building on how it's being marketed right now as a quantum resistant private Bitcoin. It's like the thing that Bitcoin could never have done, right? It's like the golden stepchild here. But more concretely, guys, from your perspective of building actual quantum resistant technology, like how urgent is the transition to quantum safe cryptography for blockchains, and which types of primitives need to be thought through in prioritization of this urgency? Is there a set of primitives that need to really be migrating towards this more quantum safe cryptography first? How urgent is this dilemma? Is it multi-year, multi-decade? I know it's hard to say, but I'm curious both of your perspectives on this matter.
Yeah, let me get my crystal ball, then we can see, right? But well, I guess I keep saying like we have at least 5 years time, right? I don't think like any quantum computer cracking cryptography will show up in the next 5 years. It might even be that it will never be there, right? It could be that we have quantum computers that are very useful, but don't quite scale to the size that allows them to break the cryptography views, right? Because I mean, we're already operating at like the atomic level here. It's not like when we had like the tube and the move from tube to transistors to integrated circuits, which always like made it cleaner and more efficient. And with quantum computer, we are already operating at this level, right? So it's like hard to imagine that you could make this even smaller and smaller. So I think that's one, I guess, the limiting factors for quantum computer. And the other one is, like to break crypto, you need millions of physical qubit, and the larger the quantum system scales, the more interaction it has with the environment, and the more errors getting included. So that's why it might never ever exist a quantum computer that's actually good enough for crypto. But who knows, right? I mean, like it's really like a crystal ball question. But I'm good for the next 5 years, and so I think we have time. And then, of course, the question is, if you do something today, you might miss like 5 years of evolution of quantum or post-quantum crypto. And many of the cryptographic algorithms that some of the blockchains today use, you cannot easily replace them with like post-quantum securities, like things like signatures, encryption, you can, right? But then if you talk about threshold cryptography or threshold signatures, you can't really. I mean, you can maybe simulate that by a set of signatures. So there's many things that you can't really do yet. And also there, like zero knowledge proofs come in again to build some of those things. So I'm still sleeping like a baby, I guess, for now. And of course, you should build systems such that whenever it gets more urgent, that you can sort of plug and play these cryptographic algorithms. I mean, that's like good design. Regardless, you should never hard code. You should always encapsulate your crypto so that you can replace it. You have to think about key migration, all of that. Anyways. And then, yeah, let's see. Well, like again, maybe in 5 years we have to talk about that. But to me, it's not really urgent. In many ways, it's like a marketing hype. And we also have to distinguish between like signatures where you can replace them at any time, and encryption where if quantum computer comes, let's say in 10 years, then all the data that we encrypt today will be readable. Whereas all the signatures we can upgrade, right? And so it's also a bit different here. And then of course it depends on the use case whether the encryptions we do today of the data, is that still valuable or still makes sense in 10 years. So it's not really urgent, but maybe we should think about the encryptions that we do today.
Yeah, Jens, anything to add?
Somebody hijacked the
Yeah.
line to
I don't know if it was me or if it was our boy. Let's go for a quick standby.
Yeet is built for big moments. The most fun you'll ever have with your crypto. Go to yeet.com to yeet into your next game.
Not your keys, not your coins. From the team that pioneered cold storage, Trezor has just released its new wallet. Guys, if you are still using hot wallets in 2025, 2026, you are missing the entire point. Secure your coins. Get a Trezor at trezor.io.
Go anywhere on chain instantly with Relay.link. Relay is closing in on $10 billion.
Okay, yeah. So I've for a long time had 2035 as the target date for quantum computers. But I think we have a more urgent question now on our mind, right? Which is the AI singularity. There have 2030, right? So that's going to come 5 years before, and probably going to upend many other things and break many schemes as well, right? So I think we live in very interesting times, right? And I think that, and in some sense, from a zero knowledge proof perspective, I'm, not too worried about quantum computers, because many of the techniques that we're using anyway are actually plausibly post-quantum resistant. We're just using them not for post-quantum resistance, but because they're the most efficient ones, right? So, and then there's a question of there are other cryptographic schemes like signatures, and as Jan mentioned, threshold signatures and things like that, where there's it would be nice to have something that was more performant. But many things you can actually do with zero knowledge proofs, and many zero knowledge proof systems are actually post-quantum resistant, so for other incentives, right? But I think, for me, post-quantum security is not the top of the mind. It's really AI and how we deal with that, right? And I think that also has huge implications for privacy, right? So one example I would give is that if you think about, the ability of AI to generate deep fakes, right? I mean, I think we're going to enter a world where everything we see is not something that can be trusted because it could just have been generated by an AI, right? So we cannot trust our senses anymore. And the question is then, what can you trust, right? And you can trust maybe digital content that has been signed or that has been proven correct somehow, right? So verifiable content. And there's one risk I want to mention. I do agree mostly with Jan when he says, well, signatures, we don't need to worry so much now because, well, we verify them now, right? And then we're good to go. Whereas encryption is something that could be broken in the future by a quantum computer. But one worry I do have is that if we are able to break the signature schemes, right, then we're losing the verifiability of the data. So we may actually have like a history of data that's been digital signed, but now, well, we could break that, we lose that history, and we can't recover it because now AI is good at generating fake information.
Yeah, so I guess just jumping in here, right? Like what I had in mind really that like if quantum computers come close, right? You go and maybe hash all your signatures into a big hash tree or whatever, like the world state before quantum computers. And there you go, right? Because obviously you would have to do something like that. It's not straightforward, right?
It's a good. I love your question, right? What could we do? I mean, okay, so let's say people have been using signature schemes that are not post-quantum secure, right? We can see a quantum computer coming on the horizon, right? And what do we do to preserve our signed history, right? And I would agree. I mean, if we could get the world to come together and say, look, this is all the data. We will make a giant timestamp of that, right? We're using some post-quantum secure scheme, right? And then we know that all of this was something that happened before, right? And then we can prove that these are the things that we had before, and therefore it was this was valid back in a day where we didn't have quantum computers, and therefore it must really be authenticated.
Right? You sort of have that, right? Like, I mean, many people consider Bitcoin as that thing, right? And I was seriously thinking about really dumping stuff onto Bitcoin just so that you already have it, right? And then at least what you have in mind, there you go. So you can go back to that. And that's really, I guess, the beauty of Bitcoin compared to all of these proof of stake networks where you just, have that and wait a bit, right? Actually, the other point, Jens, you mentioned all this just reminded me the authenticity of the information. It's probably expired, but many years ago, I wrote a patent exactly about that, right? How could you sign your streams from your camera and all of that, right? Because they all have this little TPM chip, but not all of them, our computers now have, right? And I think stuff like that we will have to do very soon. And obviously, we missed the point to. Another thing that we discussed, putting all of the world's Wikipedia somewhere pre-AI, because we missed that. I'm not sure if somebody out there did that. Took a snapshot of Wikipedia. I would be very interested. But yeah, I agree that one of the problems also now how to distinguish that, and obviously blockchain again can help in one way or the other. So it really shows where we go with our IT system that. Blockchain or verifiable compute, trustworthy compute that is out there, open, verifiable is tremendously important. And in my say 10 years, maybe maybe 35 for quantum computers, but really that all of the world's IT systems actually will migrate over to blockchain-driven things, just because it's more secure, it's more verifiable, and Bitcoin hasn't been hacked, and also that's why I said Rialo now, because we really want to bring those secure systems to the rest of the world, so that we have this higher degree of verifiability and also the security really against all kinds of attacks that still happen very much today.
Yeah, and I think ZK will play a lot of that. Also, just what I'm seeing is actually more of these AI tools that are actually able to go in and be white hack exploiters of smart contracts now. So on Claude Code, you can now basically build your own AI that is able to read Solidity and other kind of Rust languages and actually go and interpret smart contracts and find exploits in real time.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's also super cool. And you know, I think also exciting times from the point of view that now actually, you know, like, I mean, I haven't coded in years, right? But now with AI, I'm back in the game. I think
You get back to the game.
Same holds for other people, but it also makes it easier to, you know, port applications, port like Web 2 applications to Web 3, right? Because now, it's really good at writing code. It's probably, you know, I'm not sure whether I agree with Jens that 2030 will be the singularity. Also here, maybe that never happens. Who knows, right? But I guess at least for writing code and like doing that, it's really nice, and I think it will help help us making the transition from today's system into more systems that are working differently because they use blockchain technology, zero knowledge proofs, and all of that. So I think while having all these things that we maybe worry about, we're also getting into tools actually that should address some of the biggest problems that we do have today.
Yeah. Jens, I'm curious from your perspective, in the same kind of line of thinking with regards to the influx of autonomous type of agentic entities, let's call them. Some governments will be soon giving them kind of not citizenship necessarily, but creating jurisdiction around these types of entities. Even they'll likely have their own identification system and such. So it's really accelerating here, kind of. As you see this happening on chain, and as you see a lot of this agentic kind of finance and commerce happening, I'm curious if the evolution of ZK and what your perspective is now, how it's changed, and how you could anticipate it going forward, being that we had a lot of custom circuit building for the last 10 to 15 years around ZK. Obviously, this idea of a generalizable general purpose ZK VM came about. Ton of hundreds of millions of dollars invested into building these out. Nexus being one of these in the stack here, one of the top players, kind of has taken custom circuits out of the limelight a bit here, kind of made them perhaps less necessary, or perhaps really only necessary for very specialized proving scenarios. In the same sense, AI and agents are getting to be more specialized, getting to be more task pre-selected for a certain task rather than a generalizable kind of construct here. Maybe you can like analogize the evolution of these two technologies together from a kind of like specialized to generalized back to specialized in ZK, perhaps, and AI kind of generalized to specialized. How do you see the different types of proving general purpose or special custom circuit evolving as it relates to the AI on-chain evolution? I hope I made that clear enough. I can re-ask it if need be.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful question that you're asking, right? And it is. I don't have a good answer to that, right? But I think you're quite right that there's been this trend towards let's build something general purpose in the CK space, right, and get as close to sort of like a standard development process. And now maybe AI would sort of like take it back to more the Wild West, right, where you can build something which is more custom based, but maybe more efficient, right? So there's a good question of like, what does the future of CK hold? And I think what we're going to see is probably something along the lines of being more specialized. I think there's another type of specialization, right? Which is, I guess when you have a CKVM, it also expresses here the computation I do, and this is what I'm proving, right? But what you see perhaps is that it's really a question, what is it that I want to verify, right? And then you could use an AI to more specifically encode, this is what I want to verify. So there's also a question of what it is that you're actually proving the first instance, right? Which is going to change with AI. So yeah, super good question. I don't have a good answer to it. I suspect that in the near future, I don't think AI is going to be good enough for that, and I actually think there's a good case to make for CKVMs as long as the cases you're proving is right, where this is not the cost bottleneck, right? I think that makes a lot of sense. And if you look at what AIs are doing now, right, they also, they take out some standard tools, they run those tools, right, and make things work, right? So I think there it ties nicely into the workflow. But then I think it's going to be a landscape that's going to change a lot, as everything else in coding. And when we're seeing this integration of ZK and standard development, right, I think that's also going to be affected just as much by AI.
Interesting. Jan, anything to add there?
Well, it's an interesting question, right? Where does AI agents go, right? I mean, how, in particular, like what's the accountability? If I have an AI agent that does something, how can I later on, how is that accountable? How can it act on my behalf? And normally I would say, look, here's a piece of code that does something for me. And then I would really want to verify that this piece of code does what it does, right? Very difficult for AI, right? Because it's a bunch of matrices, a bunch of entries in the matrices, like very big and whatnot, right? And so I can't really do that. So, and because we're getting back to look on one hand, zero knowledge proofs, but also there it just, I guess proofs there are nice in the sense that it deal well with matrices. But at the end of the day, you really want to make sure that this AI does, really produce that, and this is, can't be like tampered with. And so we're really going to this probably model where AI has to be running somewhere in a trusted system, again, like a blockchain-driven system, most likely. And I guess I would also want to make sure that maybe I'm using the same model as somebody else, right? So that we are all used the same, because the more people using the same model, the more confidence can we have that actually this model really does what it's supposed to do, right? So because probably going to see standardized models that everybody can use, that are running on chain, and that can just, that it will produce some proof that it did whatever it did. And I know, because so my AI just paid my bills, like my monthly bills, approved them, but then also the underlying model that was used is also the standard agent model, right? And I guess there's a lot of these challenges that we're going to see. And again, I think secure systems, blockchain-driven systems, zero knowledge proofs will really play a large part for securing these things.
I'm wondering, so there's an analogy, I think, to sort of the management literature, right? I mean, how do you know that your employee are actually doing a good job or not, right? And that's sort of a classical problem, right? And I think this is re-emerging just with AI instead of humans as the employees. So one question you can ask, to which degree are the tasks that you're giving them verifiable in the end, right? Then you don't need to verify that they're doing the right thinking. You need to verify that the output they're producing has sufficient quality, right? And that works for some tasks, but also, as we know from the management literature, not all tasks fall in that category, right? And you really need to have some sort of alignment with, the employee and the organization that's employing them.
But maybe we're better off here, right? Because with AI, at least, I mean, in theory, depending on how complex the model is, right? But if it's simpler model, you could actually look at the input data and at the training, right? And say, okay, so this also was trained on a trustworthy system. And so we can say, okay, so it's probably going to be behaving like that because that's how it was trained. Whereas I guess for your employees, yeah, it's going to be hard to into all the teachers and all the people they
Jan, we started off this conversation talking about privacy and verifiability, and I think we both agree of the importance of them. I think you made the point that there's a case to be argued that verifiability could be more important. I think with what you guys are doing at Sub-Zero with Rialo's extended execution, you guys are calling it REX architecture. I'm curious how you see this architectural design concept, kind of do the old blockchain trilemma trade-off evasion, is what I like to call it. Everyone thinks in these trade-off sets, and I think it's very clear that you have to, as it's very clear as an architectural design of on-chain primitives. But it does feel like the best tech is the ones that kind of almost evade them. how do you guys do that with Rex? How do you think about this kind of dilemma?
I'm not sure whether I ever believed this trilemma. So, right? I think at the end of the
yeah, with ZK, there is no trilemma.
no, but
There
I
is
guess
none.
I mean, well, I guess it's another conversation. Maybe let's not go there. But like, there's a lot of like maybe misconceptions that go into this trilemma. You know, at the end of the day, we're building trustworthy distributed systems, right? And then, like always, you know, like you can build high performance things. I don't think that's necessarily the case that blockchains are just slow or zero knowledge is just slow. So much for the trilemma, right? But I guess what you were saying is really this, like, you know, what is the you know, how can you do this slide, right? How much price did you have? How much verifiability do you have? And I mean, you cannot answer this in all generality, because really it depends on the application, right? If you have, so let's take whatever, some financial transaction, I don't know, on-chain lending market and so on and so forth, right? If you want to do a good lending market, then the question is like, what data do you take as input, right? And do you take real world data as input, and then who has access to that input data, right? If for instance, I could somehow pull in my credit card, my credit score, then that data should, of course, not be available to everybody, right? So now you have this lending platform, the core of the lending protocol that then does compute that data. Obviously, here you will have to have a system where you can pull in my credit score. Somehow it's certified by a third party. You know, how to solve that. Let's not quite go into the details here because we might get too technical. But the idea is that there's some encryption that is somehow authenticated with your credit score, and then that gets as an input to the algorithm. And then, of course, now the algorithm, if you know, because I just decrypted the credit score, checks how well it is, and depending on that, gives an updated risk rating. You know, so now we can sort of define at hand of this application that, okay, maybe the risk rating, you know, it's the threshold, right? Just above and below, it's the output, and all the rest stays hidden. And then you can, you know, there's a zero knowledge proof, or however you want to do it. You can say, okay, here, this computation that happened, credit scoring went in, authentication signature of the credit scorer went into this computation, and then what you get on, you know, the risk algorithm that maybe is even hidden. That's like another hidden parameter that comes from your, you know, the guy who wants to lend the money, or to provide the money to be lent out, and then the you know, like, okay, above or below comes out, or maybe a category. So, and I think that's really like one of these examples where you see, okay, so how you would address this application. And now, like, our goal at Rialo is really now build the rails so this can happen, right? So that you can actually specify that. You can say, here's a program that stays hidden, here's the inputs that come in encrypted. So it's really about building a framework so people can build these applications.
So it's perhaps worth also just mentioning, right, that I mean, we have a chance, right? And you know, I think Nexus is rethinking finance, Rialo's rethinking finance, right? And I do think we have some opportunities that we didn't have in the past, and something which maybe also can be helped with AI, right? So one thing that people have been thinking about, okay, look, you know, we can do, like, you know, much smaller payments, right? Because we have agents that can manage all the small payments and so forth, right? You know, there's a huge cost if you have to send a bill out to somebody every minute, right? You know, so that's why we get monthly utility bills, right? But now, you know, we live in a world where we actually have, you know, some pretty performant blockchain systems, right, that can handle this. We have agents that can act on our behalf. So you can sort of like parcel them out into much smaller pieces, right? And maybe we don't need the credit score in the first place, because now the risk somebody who's, you know, letting out the room is taking on is not like, you know, a month's, you know, utility bill payment or rent or something like that, right? But it's just like the cost for an hour or a day or something like that.
Yep, and we can do that on chain as well, hopefully with very little fees, and doing it in a verifiable manner. I think I have this term. It's called like organic AI, which is that you want to know that there's the training data that your AI agent, specifically the one that is managing finances, you really want to know that it's an organic, verifiable AI agent in the sense that its training data is what you think it is, and you can verifiably confirm that before you start to allow it to move around, whether it be your personal info, your financial info, etc. Guys, it's been an awesome conversation. Jan, congrats on the move to Sub-Zero and your new role. Jens, I appreciate your time. Guys, we'll take a quick standby and be right back with the rest of the show. Thanks, guys, for joining.
Thanks so much.
Yeet is built for big moments. The most fun you'll ever have with your crypto. Go to yeet.com to yeet into your next game.
Not your keys, not your coins. From the team that pioneered cold storage, Trezor has just released its new wallet. Guys, if you are still using hot wallets in 2025, 2026, you are missing the entire point. Secure your coins. Get a Trezor at trezor.io.
Go anywhere on-chain instantly with Relay.link. Relay is closing in on $10 billion transferred. Go to Relay.link to bridge your assets now.
Money shouldn't wait for Mondays. Following its Rio upgrade, Polygon is now one of the fastest chains for stablecoin transfers and payments. Visit Polygon Technology to learn more.
Kalshi is the world's largest prediction market. You can trade on anything in all 50 states. Go to kalshi.com to trade today.
Talk to AI like your lawyer or your doctor or your therapist. Yours, private, and here today. Visit near.ai to have a fully private chat experience.
Havachi is fast and private perps trading, secured by ZK with Celestia underneath. Go to hibachi.xyz to start trading today.
Looking for yield that stands out? Infinify gives you just that. Deposit stablecoins and earn far more than the current savings rate. Infinify is a battle-tested, reliable DeFi platform that is ready to go. Head to infinify.xyz.
Halliday is unified crypto payments. Give your users more wherever they are. Go to halliday.xyz to never write a smart contract again.
Open, stable, borderless. Frax is building the next generation of stablecoin infrastructure for the digital finance era. Visit frax.com to learn more today.
Yeet is built for big moments. The most fun you'll ever have with your crypto. Go to yeet.com to yeet into your next game.
Not your keys, not your coins. From the team that pioneered cold storage, Trezor has just released its new wallet. Guys, if you are still using hot wallets in 2025, 2026, you are missing the entire point. Secure your coins. Get a Trezor at trezor.io. Nope, that's the wrong one. All right, guys. We have Circle and Circle is making some moves in the space, and I think we need to talk about it. Let's get the AXL one up. I think that's the most important one. We can talk about this Gateway Circle thing shortly after. But basically, today Circle acquired AXL, accelerating their cross-chain capabilities. And yeah, I think that there's something to be said here about these tokens just being are these protocols being bought out and the token holders just kind of being left for dry. I'm not exactly sure what the deal terms were for this specific deal. But let's talk about it. So basically what happened is, and we'll get it up on the screen, but basically Circle has entered an agreement with the N3on Labs team to acquire who are the initial developers of AXL to a leading interoperability stack into Circle to accelerate the next chapter of multi-chain infrastructure with ARC and CCTP. We're excited to welcome new team members in the Circle family as soon as the deal closes. The AXL Foundation Network and AXL token are not part of this acquisition and will continue to operate independently under community governance. What does that even mean? So, guys, I think that this is basically saying that AXL is no longer and the token is no longer. And if I'm a token holder of AXL reading this, I am not really feeling excited about it. And I'm not loving how it looks. And honestly, I'm probably getting out of there. It really reads like, hey, we're taking over the core team that is managing this protocol. We're bringing them in-house. We're going to take all of their development talent and use it for our products. And it sounds like the token's just going to kind of get left for dead. So, guys, I would just be careful. I don't really know how to react to these. This is just really weird. It's just like a really interesting dynamic where there's these protocols that can get bought out, but not the token. So my take is just I would keep an arm's length from AXL. I'm curious to see how it reacted to this news, actually. The whole market is down, but that's okay. AXL. I mean, it's kind of sideways. I guess it's down today, 12%, but nothing is really new there. The whole market's kind of down. Yeah, guys, I don't know about this. I'm not loving this if I'm an AXL holder, honestly. I don't think it's great. So, I don't know. It's just so weird that you can acquire all the tech from the labs company, but then you leave the token out. I don't really get it. I don't really get it. So, all right, guys, I think that's it from us today. We got a full pack stream tomorrow. It's a Monday. I got a ton of stuff on my plate to knock down. So I'm going to see you guys tomorrow. Much love. Stay alive. Stay safe. Stay cozy. Happy holidays. We're getting closer. See you guys soon. Peace.